Welcome back to Questing Beast. I'm Ben. Today we'll be taking a look at this review copy I was sent of Winter's Daughter, which is an adventure in the Dolmenwood setting designed for old-school D&D. Dolmenwood is my favorite Dungeons & Dragons setting. I've done extensive reviews of other adventures set in Dolmenwood, especially the Wormskin zine, which is my favorite zine, I think, done for the OSR. I've also done a review of The Weird That Befell Drigbolton, which is a previous adventure set specifically in Dolmenwood. And this is the more recent one. I think it was up for a number of Ennies, including cover art, and the cover art is really beautiful. It sets it apart from a lot of other adventures. It feels like an old-style children's book, and it has that fairy tale feel that I think that Gavin Norman was really going for. I love Gavin's adventures just across the board. There's a simplicity to them, this subtle beauty and wonder to them, and they are often very easy and clear to run, which can be difficult to find in Dungeons & Dragons publications. Here's our back cover. So we're delving into the fairy-haunted forest of Dolmenwood. So this is a dungeon crawl, but with a fairy tale twist to it. This comes in actually two editions. So we have the old school compatible version. This is designed specifically for Gavin's Old School Essentials, previously known as BX Essentials, which is a streamlined version of BX D&D. But there's also a second edition, the 5th edition compatible. So if you are running 5e Dungeons & Dragons, then you can get this version. The contents, as far as I can tell, are basically identical, but this is fleshed out with 5th edition stats. This book is also a little bit longer. The old school one is 24 pages, while the 5th edition one is all the way up to 40 pages. But that's mostly because the stat blocks for 5th edition are just so much longer. A character that's described in maybe a quarter page here will take up an entire page in 5th edition. Let's look at what we get in Winter's Daughter. Start off, the interior pages are used right off the bat as overview maps, which is a great thing to do. You open this up, and immediately you have an understanding of generally what things look like. So giving the DM this overview is a great place to start. It's not only keyed, we have short little descriptions of all of the main places. So just by reading this, you know exactly what you're in for. We see the same thing in the back, where we have a few more details. This is a great little touch. We have this great cover page. I love these details. I'm not sure where Gavin gets them, but we see them in a lot of the Wormskin zines as well, and I just love them. I think he's pulling them out of old books. And the main feature of this book that I love so much is the layout. Gavin is, I think, quickly becoming one of the kings of layout in the OSR. Enormous attention to detail in terms of layout. Everything is done on either 1-page or 2-page spreads. This is done meticulously and very carefully. When we have referee's background, instead of just a giant info dump, we have everything laid out by topic. So you can just go straight to which topic you're interested in, and then it's broken down into bullet points that cover the important things that you need to know. So there isn't a lot of just an author rambling on and on about their setting. Is giving you clear, actionable information, most of which is going to be directly relevant to the story in one way or another. We have a number of hooks, so clear ways that you can get players engaged. This is designed for levels 1 through 3, so very great for new players just starting off in Dolmenwood. You can either start them off with dreams about this location, because there is a ghost or a fairy lady that was rumored to be haunting this place, and she can give you clues about where to go. Perhaps you've inherited the tomb, which was once the burial place of a saint, and maybe there's treasure there, or maybe you're just tomb robbers. We go into a little bit of Dolmenwood lore, and then we immediately start getting into the exploration of the location. It starts off with sacrifice at the Withing Stone. So as you approach, you come to this stone circle where there is a human sacrifice going on. So that's a bit of a dark way to start. I know some people have complained about that before, but it's one of those things that you could easily leave in or take out. It's a strange ritual because the victim is completely willing to be sacrificed for these arcane purposes. So the players can either help in the ritual if they're feeling particularly murder hobo-y, or they can leave it alone. They can try and fight off the sacrificers. They can do whatever they want. but it does set a rather dark tone right at the beginning. We have the tomb entrance. We have the burial mound with a number of interesting locations, each of which may feature a minor fight or several strange magic items. There's a great one here in the family crypt. So I love the way this is laid out. So we have all of the main features have their own little gray titles here. So 2 floating skeletons, there's a fissure in the floor, there are stone coffers, there are brass plaques on the coffers, what's inside the coffers, and the slime vapor. So just by scanning these main titles, you know the important things that you need to know. One thing that I might like is a little bit more of a hierarchy. For example, brass plaques on coffers and inside the coffers, maybe sort of indent these beneath stone coffers so that you can see more clearly that these 2 things are directly related to this. Because they're all described the same way, they're sort of put on the same plane, when really some of these elements won't come up much unless, a higher level is investigated. So that's kind of a nitpick. But the layout is very, very good. Beneath each of these main titles, we have details. And again, in bold are the important things that you need to know. And if something has a particular reaction or there's a language that it needs, it's done with bullet points. It's so clear. This would be very easy to run, even on the fly. I mean, I'd recommend reading the whole thing first, but if you had to run this without looking at it very much at all, I think you could do it. And that is rare for a D&D adventure. We have a number of things we can fight: floating skeletons, worm tongues, stone hounds. We have a ghost that we can fight. But this has a wonderful fairy tale twist. Since this is Dolmenwood, the world of fairy is real. And this is one of the few points when you can cross over to it. So giving that right away to a 1st to 3rd level party is wonderful because it gives them immediately the type of tone that Dolmenwood has. Players enter this tomb and they have almost immediate access to a pocket dimension of fairy, where a princess is trapped in a tower. This sense of wonder and strangeness right off the bat to a low-level party is such a wonderful twist to add. It's normally the sort of thing that you would put at the end of an adventure, and it puts it right at the beginning instead. We have an epilogue with a number of ways that this can be resolved, because the whole adventure appears to be one way, but then with a bit of investigation by the players, they can figure out that it's not that way at all. And they can either try and resolve it happily, or if they are not so inclined, they can try and turn it to their advantage and profit off of it. Of course, there are consequences if they try and do this, but that's half the fun. And we have some magic items at the back that have some long-term consequences for their use. Looking a little bit at the 5th edition version of this, I thought I wanted to show you something kind of funny, just because it amused me while I was reading this. So, for example, when you run into the sacrifice at the mounds, so we have hooded men, the Droons, right? And we have some spells. One of their spells is Topple Dolmen. So a standing stone levitates from the stone circle and topples onto a spot within 30 feet. Anyone within 5 feet must save versus wands or suffer some damage. Right? Pretty straightforward. So let's see the exact same thing in 5th edition. So if we get to the Droons, here we go. So again, that little text box is now an entire page because it has to be for 5th edition. We have the full text box, and the same spell for Topple Dolmen is now like a solid paragraph long and is mostly just mechanical things like what DC you need to do, what dexterity saving throw you need to make. A trapped target is prone and has its speed reduced to 0 as though restrained. It's just interesting to see the language change between 5th edition and BX, done so clearly. What's wonderful about the 5th edition is that the attention to detail and layout is just as exacting as it is in the old school version. So everything is still done on 1 or 2 page spreads, no matter the cost. And I love that dedication. It does make the book longer, but of course that's fine. My preference would be for the BX version, but if your group is committed to running 5th edition, this of course would work perfectly well. I love how it includes GM notes for a 5th edition group, letting them know that this is done in an old school style, and therefore there are different expectations in terms of lethality and the amount of player initiative that is expected. I think that's really great, because especially if it's a relatively new group to old school D&D, they're going to need that kind of advice. So that's it for Winter's Daughter. It's a beautiful little adventure. I think it's definitely going to be something that I will want to run, because I love little dungeons like this, especially ones that are so thematic and have so much care put into the design and layout. So I'll put links down in the description below as usual, where you can check it out for yourself. If you've enjoyed this, remember to subscribe, or even click the bell icon if you would like to get notified whenever a new Old School D&D review drops. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you guys next time.